Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Monday Special, where we're talking about youth and depression tonight. Before I introduce our audience and our expert, here's a little write-up about depression. Depression is often referred to as the common cold of mental health, with an estimated 350 million people affected globally. This is according to the World Health Organization. But now we want to paint a picture of what's happening in Kenya with regards to this. So we'll introduce Dr. Kemunto, who is a resident psychiatrist. And before we talk to our audience, we'd just like to get a bit of definition from you, Dr. Kemunto. Thank you so much for being on the show. Could you define depression for us?
Thank you for being on this show. What I can say about depression, depression is actually the most common mental illness that we have. It's actually more prevalent than others, about a lifetime prevalence of 6%. And what is depression? Is a mood disorder where most patients will present with a symptom of depression, just feeling like they're not happy all the time. And most of the time they will tell you that they're not interested in the things that they used to have fun doing before. See, if they had a hobby of swimming, they now want to be withdrawn and stay in bed. And most of the time you'll find the period will define if this is a patient with depression or this is a patient who just has a low mood.
Right.
So most patients, if you have just a low mood, it will be just maybe in the morning, then afternoon you're fine. But a patient with depression will have a persistence of the low mood for about even 2 weeks. They're not able to get out of it, and they're not able to explain why it is so, though it comes in many other symptoms.
How prevalent is it now with young people in Kenya?
I must say that we do not have local statistics, but we use the global statistics that are there. The prevalence is actually 6.5. That means roughly we have at least 16 youths in 100 who are actually going through depression. And actually depression, when you look at it through the continuum of ages, it's higher in the youth than in the old.
And why is that?
Well, I think currently we have a change of how things are looked at and the perspective about life. The social stresses, the pressures of life, demands of people from you are very many. And you find that we also have substance use and abuse. We find now many youth cannot be able to balance what is okay and what is okay. So they find themselves feeling depressed and they cannot keep up with what is going.
And then research also indicates that it's more prevalent in women than men. Is that accurate?
Oh, very true. It's actually accurate. It's actually 50%. You find that it is twice as more prevalent in women than men.
What are some of the reasons?
Women handle a lot of stress. Women are the people who are dealing with children bearing. Actually, Janet, if I tell you, a woman who has given birth has a 15% risk of actually developing depression in the first year of post-childbirth. And you see, they're the same people who take up the burden of the family. You find that currently we have a lot of women who are the breadwinners of this family. So the prevalence of depression in women is actually more. But scientifically, you cannot really say that this is the cause of the prevalence being higher in women than in men.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a few moments just to talk about you know, the signs, the symptoms and treatment. We'd now like to talk to our audience, and the first question I'd like to ask is, she mentioned there's a difference between a low mood and knowing when you actually have depression. And from each of you, I'd like to hear, when did you know you'd kind of crossed that line into saying, I feel like I need to seek help for what I'm going through? Let's start with you. You can just tell us your name and then just explain to us.
Hi, thank you. My name is Galoni, and for me, when I realized that I crossed the line is when I didn't have any will to live. I literally would wake up and be like, why am I here? And it stopped just being a bad mood and she's a teenager and she's moody to I just don't want to be here anymore. And that's when I was like, oh, there's an issue.
And how long ago was that?
That was when I was 19.
Okay.
Yes. So a couple of years back.
A couple of years ago.
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to you and just ask you more questions. Yourself, please, your name?
Okay. My name is Suzanne Biza, but I'm hypomanic. So for me, it's the highs and the lows. Started last year. Had it for about a year. How did I know it? I was dragged to a mental institution. I found out that I'm hypomaniac.
You were dragged to a mental institution?
Yes, taken
by
there.
Who?
My sisters.
Okay.
I was in a coffee plantation looking for Father Abraham.
Wait, is that like a hallucination?
Hallucination, I think that's what they would call it.
It's actually
you lose.
It's a grandiose delusion. You imagine you can actually see somebody, or you are able to see higher beings.
Okay.
I thought the world was ending.
Oh, okay.
And that Jesus was going to leave me behind.
Okay. But what triggered that? Is it something that
I had? Yes. Well, yes, I did have a traumatic year.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
And then for me, what happened is I just forgot to sleep.
Oh, right.
And I was taking too much caffeine and I forgot to eat.
Okay.
So I do have a predisposition to hypomania.
Okay.
It just then triggered mania for me.
Okay.
Therein.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. And yourself, your name and...
Yes, my name is Charure. And I guess for me, kind of like what Galoni said, I got sad because of an event in my life, and then it just kept going. The sadness just kept going. And when I started feeling like I didn't want to get out of bed, and when I could not function, I couldn't leave the house, I couldn't get out of the gate to go see people, I could not function. That's when I knew that it was an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
You started Flaunt It.
Yes.
Was it you?
Yes.
All right. Well, I think you'll tell us a little bit about that later on.
Okay.
Let's hear from the gentleman.
I'm Samuel. Every time I could spend the whole day, it is a daylight and I'm sleeping. All the time when my parents are there coming asking, why are you not getting up to bed? I used to be sad all the time.
Okay.
And I was displaced, I don't know, because of the situation in life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
My name is Brian Kalom Safiri. I'd say that this just happened about 2 years ago. I think a business deal just went sour, and I'd invested so much in it, and I became very, very depressed about it. I really didn't know it was depression in the first place, and I just became very, very sad, to a point where I became very reclusive. I didn't want to mingle with people, just be around people who I was very, very close to. And it just became worse and worse. And I found myself in hospital because I just, sometimes depression takes you to a place where you don't even feel like moving. Waking up is a problem. You don't feel like participating, even in your own work that you're very passionate about. So yeah, so that's how it started. And so I think months later is when I was diagnosed with bipolar.
Okay.
Yeah, but type 2 bipolar.
How did you get to the point where you went to hospital? Were there people around you saying, Brian, you're just not the same person, you need to get treatment? Or was it a decision that you made on your own?
Definitely, it was a concern for everyone around me, because I'd always been, and this is the funny thing about depression or bipolar, is that for a long time people look at you as this flamboyant, boisterous person,
fun-loving,
excited, but you live in your own small cocoon, and a lot of things happen in your head that people don't get it. So by the point I was going to hospital, I was feeling physically sick, because I was very, very weak, and I had a problem with, I'm an insomniac, I can't sleep very well. So you find that I wasn't eating too well and I couldn't sleep, so my body just shattered. And when I was taken to hospital, it actually even took time for doctors to, finally diagnose me with bipolar. Yeah.
Right. I think you've mentioned that it was your sisters who took you there. For the rest of you, who is it who took you to the point of getting help? Was it a family member, a friend?
Yeah, it was my mom.
Okay.
I mean, my mom noticed that I wasn't the same person that I was before, and I was very resistant to it in the beginning, because at first, I mean, it's like, I don't know if anybody has felt this before, it feels like such a fog. Depression feels like such a fog, that sometimes seeing through it and being like, oh my God, yes, now I need to go for help. It
takes a while to get there. Okay, so that was your mom. Yourself?
For me, was generally my family, my brothers, my mom, my dad. They'd really, I mean, for the longest time, as a teenager, I was in denial. I was just like, I'm just moody, I'm just a girl, I have issues. But once I got to 19, 20, and they sort of had an intervention for me, and they're just like, you need help. So eventually I was like, I do.
And you're happy that that moment came?
It was hard. It's always so hard. I mean, you're just like, shock of reality. You wish it could be, not to say this, not to offend anyone, but you wish it could be a physical illness that the world could see and acknowledge. But instead you're telling people that I have depression, and they're like, so
compassion when it's something physical.
There's more compassion when there's something physical. Is there still a lot of stigma attached to depression for all of you? Have you faced that? Like, what do you mean you're that's not even African or Kenyan, and I'll come to you about that. But have you?
I got those ones from my friends, like, what Mzungu behavior? No, those are Mzungu diseases that you got going on there. Get over it, girl. But so there is that stigma, I guess. The Kenyan society, the African society, does not necessarily understand what bipolar is, or they associate it with witchcraft, or, you know, you hear all kinds of things. I had people give me bones to hold on to fix the condition.
Yeah.
And then even yourself, just to accept, it's not easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did any of you have to go on to any treatment for it?
Yes, for me, I was hospitalized first in 2 hospitals, discharged myself on the first one and the second one, and I was on meds. But first, I didn't take the medicine because I thought they were trying to kill me.
Yeah.
I was like, they're trying to kill me.
Yeah.
That's what came to my mind. And then when I finally found a doctor that I liked or I respected, because it's very important for you to have the right doctor.
Right, and someone you can trust as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
The right psychiatrist for me. And that's when he explained to me, sweetie, you got a condition that's, you know, permanent, but it's something that you can control if you're on medicine, and you know, and you have also behavioral strategies you can use, and yes, that kind of allowed me then to move to
yourself.
I was away from my parents, so it was everybody's concern, what is disturbing this person. So when I was taken to the hospital for treatment by the Good Samaritan. So after that is how they contacted my parents. Say, your son has been sick. So
Okay.
Something about stigma. Okay, thanks. Something about stigma. I think, in all honesty, this is a very, very new thing for Africans.
Right.
Personally, I was one of those people way back who would say things like, this is a Mzungu disease. And I'd actually mock these things, because we see these things on TV every time, you know, people taking Zantac and all that stuff about crazy things that they're seeing or hearing. And I remember, in fact, when I was in film school way back, I had a housemate who was actually bipolar, and I used to really mock the issue, because I'd be like, this is quite odd, you know, this is a mental, really, this is a Mzungu thing. And I was away out of the country, so it actually hardened the position that I had. Up until the moment that Daktari here told me that, you actually have bipolar. And it's been even tougher for my friends. And, you know, funny enough is we tend to end up understanding more of friends than they having to understand us. Because we still know that for them, it is a new thing. They're like, Brayo, what's this thing? You're telling me you can't get out of bed. You're telling me you can't go for a shoot. You can't, you know, and the thing is, so there's still that element of people not understanding that mental conditions are actually real.
It's real. Yeah.
People actually don't really understand that. And, you know, and in fact, it's a very, very close people to you who are supposed to be a support structure, who in many ways and in many times are the people who actually break your heart, because you want them to believe that what I'm dealing with is real, but because they can't physically touch it or see it,
then they end up just saying, you can fix it, get over it.
Just snap out of it, snap out
You're
of it.
You're pretending.
Yeah, snap out of it.
Okay. Very, very quickly, does it ever, the best way to ask this, but does it ever end? Does it, stigma? No, not even the stigma. Yes. Just depression, bipolar. Is it something that one lives with and manages, or can you wake up one day and say, I'm free of this?
Actually, depression and bipolar are chronic illnesses, in the sense that there is no day you'll say that you can get out of it or you can totally get healed. It's something you manage with time. And if it's in the severe end, medication will help you maintain yourself, because most of the time it's the imbalance in the brain that is an issue. But if you're able to balance it, you live normally. I will only say that depression is as equal as any other chronic illness, like diabetes, like hypertension. They have no treatment, but with right medication you can manage and live an equal normal life. But most people imagine the moment you have depression or any mental condition that you've lost function, because they feel your higher faculties cannot work. But that is not true, because we have a lot of testimonials on people who are working, including the people here.
Okay. And Dr. Kemunto, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the symptoms of someone who has depression? I know our audience have mentioned their own stories and how they knew they'd crossed that line. But generally, if there's someone out there who needs to know what the symptoms are, what are they?
Thank you. I'm glad that we're talking about this, and it's very interesting for the people to know what actually is depression and how does it actually feel. So mainly the main symptom, there are two main symptoms that patients will actually come up with that they will notice themselves. They will feel always sad and depressed all the time, and they do not know why. It can go on and they cannot get out of it. than what you were interested before. If you wanted to swim, if you wanted to play, you wanted to be an outgoing person, you find now you do not want to do all that, it's no longer interesting. Then most patients get withdrawn. How do you get that? You find that they will prefer to stay in their house, if not outside. If they're within the house and there are other people, they would learn to lock themselves up in the bedroom. They don't just want to interact because it's too much for them. Then there are those who sleep a lot. They will sleep, and even when they wake up, they still are tired. It's not like sleep is enough. They wake up still fatigued, and they want to wake up very late within the day. And some who have sleep will sleep less, in the sense that you wake up very early in the morning and all you can think about is everything that is disturbing you. You're ruminating on all your problems. Is it financial? Is it a divorce? Is it a heartbreak? Then we also have those who have poor concentration. You see, you're not sleeping well. So you go to work, you cannot concentrate on anything. You want to read a page, but you find yourself stuck in that page.
Sorry, I have a question. You mentioned withdrawn, wants to stick to themselves. Someone who's watching this as an introvert might be like, but maybe I'm just an introvert, maybe I'm just not a fan of mingling with people too much. Withdrawal
will be only noted if most of the time that you are those people who are outgoing. So people will notice that, what is happening with so-and-so? These days, she doesn't want to talk, she switches off her phone, she wants to stay in the house. Yes, those are it changes from your normal self to something different that you are not.
Yes. Is it hereditary?
Depression. It is the genetic predisposition actually makes you more prone to it because it makes you not able to handle the stress, and most of the time we wouldn't understand why anyone else is able to undergo this. How come I'm the only one when work is too much, I feel too pressured, or I can't handle it? Genetics will always play a role.
Yes. We were talking during the break to our audience here about treatment. It's been hard to access treatment. I mean, you mentioned that this is seen as like a rich man's disease. How hard has it been for those of you who wanted to go in and get treatment, who continue to want treatment, accessing treatment facilities, if at all there are any? Could any of you comment on that?
Okay, I mean, for me, I'm grateful and I thank God that I have a medical cover, but when I got this condition, I was more interested to know how other people around me are living, and you find that if you don't have a medical cover in Kenya, dealing with a mental illness means you're blocked out. People, there's no compassion, or there's no programs in place to help mentally ill people access treatment. And if they do, and even the ones that do have medical cards, when they do, it's not exactly cheap. It is not cheap. So, you know, that is a
big issue. Do any of you feel the same way about that as well?
Okay, treatment for the mental illness is very expensive. So many people outside there, they can't even afford to get the treatment, and that's what makes the disease worse. Yes.
Okay.
Janet, I think generally it is a stigma even to insurance companies. I mean, for people I know and for myself who've needed treatment, there's always this whole what are you in here for, this and this, or it's not a physical illness, and there's this look of separation that they give you, and it can even reach a point where your insurance cover is cut because you're a liability now, and you know this will keep on happening, it will recur. So
while you're on that, and I think we'll hear from the rest as well, employment is also an issue, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, back to stigma, I know in this country that a lot of employers don't understand this. This is not something you can cut work for, you can take leave for, and things like that. So personally, I'm very grateful for where I work. I work at Potter House School, and I've gotten immense support from my employers, from my friends there, and I know that people in Kenya, in Africa, don't have that support. I have a friend who studied and worked abroad, and she said when she went to her boss and told her boss, I have depression, I need to take time off. For them, they're like, sick leave, you can go. So I know here that's not yet happening.
It depends on those who are exposed enough to understand, and again it comes to campaigns and knowledge. You mentioned that, the education around it. You wanted to say
people actually know what mental health entails.
What she was saying, sorry to cut you, Daktari. Especially with insurance, and it's very, very, very odd that, you know, that all other medical conditions actually given the respect they deserve. But I remember my first time being admitted in hospital with depression, and this insurance agent from my insurance coming and questioning me, why are you depressed?
Wow.
You know, and you wonder, you know, and they're not even a medical professional, you know. So, I mean, in any case, whatever answer I give you, it won't help you at all, you know. And for me, I mean, if it's not, and I really, I'm privileged that I actually have insurance cover. So I wonder, what about the very many people who are living, you know, in the countryside, and already this is not something that is taken, you know, like a mainstream quote unquote disease or condition. So I mean, it's something I think needs to change even within the medical professional industry, especially with insurance, that they need to start understanding. In fact, they need to start schooling themselves about these conditions, because this is real. All
right, tell us a little bit about your campaign.
Yes. So Flaunt It is like a body love, self-love campaign, and that's how it started.
But it started online, right?
Yes. Yes, it did. But actually, when I started thinking about this, because Flaunt It is something I feel like was in my spirit for a very long time before I actually came up with it, and it was part of it was when I was depressed and dealing with all these different things in my life, and you know, finding a way to find positivity from that and come up from that. And so, funny enough, because Flaunt It started out as a body love campaign, but you find that when depression always plays into self-hatred, depression, you know, it's
kind of intertwined
into each other. So it feels like this Flaunt It has opened up into something bigger than what it was.
Right. How? Sorry, you want to comment?
There's something we missed about the symptoms, and I think it is very pertinent that we mention it. Depression and suicidality. The main symptom and the most severe, where people reach a point and they feel they do not deserve to live. I think it is becoming on the rise, and I think it should be addressed for sure. And that is one of the other symptoms when you know now that this person needs help and this person needs to see a doctor. Suicidality, and we're seeing it a lot, where even actually when they do not intend to die, the attempt becomes lethal and they actually die. So I think it's something that we need to address.
For all of you who are here, how would you, there might be someone watching this and saying, I think my sister has depression, or my friend. How would you want them to reach out to that person? As someone who is depressed or bipolar, what's the best way for someone to get through to you?
I'd say the first thing I'd say is just talking. You know, I think talking is one of the things that we take for granted the most. We actually, many times people stand aloof and judge you or discuss what they think that you're going through, instead of actually talking to you and finding out really what are you feeling, what's going on. I think conversations are things that are missing even in our families, because you'll find that even in families, your parents or your uncles or aunties who are still in denial about the realities of mental disorders, they kind of, you know, push it on the side and they're like, okay, you know what, let's pray about it. Let's pray about it. This is just a demon that's just checked in. It's going to go away. But, you know, but the most important thing I'd say is actually conversations. I mean, I think any person who's dealt with bipolar or depression, I think the most valuable thing that you need is actually communication.
Someone to just, and someone to hear you out and not judge you and just listen to you.
Because that's the biggest part of the problem with families is, like he says, you know, they just kind of isolate you and look at you and just like, oh my gosh.
Or tiptoe around you.
You know, exactly. And nobody actually comes and just asks, you know, what's going on. And then also being open-minded.
It's still so much to cover, but unfortunately we just don't have the time. So from our audience, and I really thank you for coming out here and speaking tonight, for being courageous enough to do that. Just to wind up and getting your views and comments on the way forward, or what it is you'd like to say to someone, maybe reaching out to someone who may be going through what you're going through. Let's start with you.
I'd like to say to any support system, just be aware of what's happening. Be aware of any environmental changes that this person, your family member, your friend is going through. Be aware of any traumatic change, any physical change, if there are any signs of self-harm, addictions are coming up, weight loss, weight gain. Just be aware. And if you're going through depression, or if you think you're going through something, or if you're just low, I'd just like to say it's okay, that there's really no scar or wound or story that's too big that it won't heal. So it's really okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you. We'll go around.
I say it'll be nice if we can create more social awareness of the different type of mental illnesses out there. And to the individual who might be having it, I say, you know what, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It can be dark, but at the end of the tunnel there will be a light. You just need to keep the hope, keep the faith, lots of prayers. It really works, trust me.
Okay.
Then
Thank you for that.
kind of gets you there.
All right, thank you.
I mean, I feel like so much has already been said, but I guess I'd just say the same thing, like take note of what's happening to the people around you, and when you notice, with compassion, just an understanding, approach them and try to understand what's happening with them, and be open-minded, you know.
Okay.
They're not crazy people, but just people.
Okay. Thank you.
As we close this discussion, I would like to ask people outside there, when you see someone suffering from the depression and bipolar, please try to understand him or her, then support them. It is not their wish.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that.
I'd say another thing that maybe that is very critical is that we need to have more emphasis put by medical institutions on these issues of mental disorders. I think that it's still foreign, even for the government or medical institutions. They're still caught up in the same web that is that has engulfed people in the communities who just still believe that any mental condition is supposed to be witchcraft or something. I think there should be a movement, or a lot of emphasis, or a lot of hard work put into issues of medical of mental disorders.
Okay.
Because it's real, and to be honest, when you look even into your own society, wherever you are, there's so many stories of people, whether it's your uncle, whether it's your auntie, whether it's your cousin, and they're there. So instead of you being in denial and thinking that actually try to engage, and this is the same thing I'd say with the government as well, that if Daktari is saying that 16 out of 100 people,
then something needs to be done.
That means that that's actually a very huge population of people, and so a stigma starts even with the people who are in charge. So they need to put in measures, or even in schools, so that students actually understand what these things
from
are.
The classroom,
from a classroom level. So
I'll have to stop you just because of time, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we haven't heard from and also just commenting on what he's saying. Yes. Other than giving your 2 cents, you can also talk about maybe what programs or policies are out there concerning mental illness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that we as Kenyans need to understand that mental disorders is as a common illness and is as equal as other physical illnesses. We don't want to hear about mental disorders being put in that corner, that dark corner, that people want to shun off. The stigma has to go down. I want to repeat again that depression is the most common illness that is there among other mental disorders, and we are losing a lot of our youth to suicide, and that has to be addressed. And I want to tell people out there also that there is treatment, and it's not everybody who gets treatment. There is a lot of other interventions before actually you reach where you need actually drugs. We can talk to you, we can counsel you, we have cognitive behavioral therapies, we have group therapies that come together and sit. People with the same disorder share their challenges, how they did about it, and how they came above it. So it's not all about treatment, it's all about just identifying, accepting, and helping these people to get the assistance they need. There is a lot that has to be done in Kenya, especially for the groups that are there in support. The only group that I know of is the survivors of psychiatry, that is under the disability, and yet they've not been given that enough platform to be able to assist much, and there's a lot of blackout to what mental disorder is. There's nobody talking about it. The Kenya Psychiatry Association is doing a lot, and even the theme for this month is as depression as a disability and as a crisis that we need to be addressed. So I think we have a good start, and we need to go more.
We just need to keep the conversation going.
We need to keep going. We need to keep going. And I thank our audience. It has not been easy. For sure, so many people are not able to come because of the stigma again. No one wants to be seen as depressed or bipolar. And I commend you for that.
I second her. Thank you all so much for coming and just sharing your stories. You've no doubt helped someone out there, so thank you. And thank you, Doctor, as well, for shedding some light. I think we'll be crossing back over to Hussein, I believe. Before we wind up, we're going to take a short break, but thank you so much for watching.